Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be reacting to
Crazy German laws. 6 surprising things that are forbidden in Germany.
Now, law number 1, it's illegal to run out of fuel on the Autobahn. As most of you probably know, the Autobahn is Germany's interstate system. If you want to learn more about it, you can check out these
No, it's German. I'm sure it means something in German.
2 videos. And when it
maybe we should check these out about Autobahn. Interesting.
comes to driving, there are indeed a lot of regulations that you have to follow as a driver in Germany. Like your car has to pass inspections every 2 years, called TÜV. Otherwise, you're not allowed to drive on the streets. You also have to have certain equipment, like a first aid kit.
Same in Lithuania. It's European thing, I think. Again, a lot of these things are European. Period.
And warning vests in your car. And in the winter, it's mandatory to have winter tires on your car.
Yep.
And yes, you're also obligated to always have enough gas in your tank.
Now, I don't know about the time because where we live, we don't have winter, so not a problem. I do wonder here in the States though, if you live up north, is it required to? Because I mean, that's kind of common sense. Why would you not put winter tire? Like
what do you need it for? Like how is it different? Like how is it different with a regular tire?
It grips the road better.
So the car doesn't just drift.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah, so I think you would want to put on winter tires. Otherwise, like when you do sliding there, like a cow on ice.
As a driver, and if you don't and actually run out of gas on the Autobahn, you can be fined and might have to pay 25 up to 120 euros, since this is considered preventable. And in general, it's also illegal to stop or park on the Autobahn, even in the emergency lane. I mean, unless your vehicle is actually breaking down, but even then, you won't see a lot of cars just left there on the side of the Autobahn. Whereas in the US, you regularly see broken down vehicles on the side of the interstate that were just basic.
I haven't seen that in a while, actually. I haven't. I don't recall the last time I seen a car to the side.
On the, like just abandoned or pulled over, period? Because these are two different.
But is what she's describing like abandoned or pulled over?
I feel like she's describing abandoned a little bit.
Oh, I haven't seen an abandoned car.
You've never seen? Oh, I've seen abandoned cars.
Where have you seen abandoned
The
car?
motherfuckers put out of the car and put for sale and just put it by the highway. I've seen it, yeah. I've seen it. Pulled over car, I've seen it lately too. But you know, pull over car, change a tire, flat tire. I mean, interesting there you can't, you know. So the gas thing.
I'm thinking not for a tire reason, maybe for like a car just stopped, like the car don't work.
Oh no. But
the hood.
I've seen it like I
don't think I've seen it. I remember back in the day it used to be often, but nowadays I don't see it.
But running out of fuel is an interesting thing she's describing. I don't know if we have this law, to be honest, because I've never even dealt with it. And we do have some crazy laws too, so it's not like. So it's interesting. I mean, if you run out of fuel on the highway. I don't think we have because you just call AAA and they help you though. I don't think we have a law like this.
Basically park there.
But I wouldn't call it a crazy law. I mean, I get the reasoning behind it. As she said, it's preventable, so it's on you. You know, I don't. And the fine is not like that outrageous. She said from 25 euros to 120 or something. So it's, you know.
And of course, since most places in the US don't use radar traps to enforce speed limits, but have cops pull people over instead, you'll often also see a car that was pulled over and also a cop car behind it in the emergency lane as well. On the German Autobahn, that would actually be considered jeopardizing the road safety, especially since on many parts of the Autobahn there is no speed limit, so people are going crazy fast.
I kind of agree with this though, because pulling over, that's how a lot of people die, by like, oh, somebody was pulled over and like a truck hit them, you know, on the side of the road. So if you can't pull over, then it's going to prevent a lot of deaths. And maybe that's why Autobahn is safer. No, well, not the only reason, but one of the reasons why it's safer, because you can't pull over on the side of the road.
We have a pullover law. I remember seeing the sign.
Well, yes, the law is you only pull over if you must. You can't just pull over. Oh, let me have a phone call. Let me pull over.
Yeah, only when you must.
Yes.
Because I think a cop will come and say, okay, what are you doing?
Yeah, but you know, cops don't really enforce laws here, so you know.
Fun fact, apparently this also became illegal in a small town here in Ohio earlier this year, in Youngstown, which is close to Cleveland, so don't do it there either. Number 2, it's not allowed to name your baby Superman. Now this one isn't technically a law and you won't get fined for this, but fact is, and this is usually hard to believe for Americans, that in Germany you can't just give your baby any name you want. It'll have to be approved by the local Standesamt, like the civil registration office, and there are rules as to what you can and can't name your kid. I mean, of course there are rules for that.
There is no rules here?
I mean, Elon Musk, he tried to name his child Formula, and they said no. So he had to do adjustments.
I think there's rules here too, because in Lithuania too, you can't just give any name. So I don't. I mean, it's what's funny is that Superman is like that particular one, but I would think there is like some sort of common sense to follow the name of a child. You know.
It's Germany. We pretty much have a rule for everything. Now, whether the name you pick for your baby will be approved or not depends on different things, such as whether it's a name that actually exists, whether it'll be a reason for bullying later on in the child's life, and sometimes they also don't accept names that aren't obviously a female or a male name, which this last one is kind of ridiculous if you ask me. Here are just some examples of names that have been rejected before. Waldmeister.
Some last names I would think would require like, okay, that last name is not appropriate.
In Lithuania, the name has to be Lithuanian. Like, you couldn't, at least back in the like for example, like Lithuanian version of John is Jonas, right? Mm-hmm. You couldn't name your kid John. It would have to be Jonas. Like you couldn't call it John. Like on the paper.
If you give birth in Lithuania?
Yes. On the paper, like if you want like to get like Lithuanian passport, whatever, it couldn't be John. It would have to be Jonas. I mean, you can call him John, whatever, but legally it would be Jonas. So that's what I know. But these are interesting names. Schroeder? But there's Schroeder. Huh? Okay.
Junge, which just means boy. Rosenherz, so rose heart. Bierstübe, so kind of like a beer pub. Satan, or Satan in German. McDonald's. Superman. Pain. Gucci. Whiskey. Or the last names of politicians like Schröder, which was Germany's chancellor before Merkel, or Lenin.
Oh, so I guess you cannot give it as first name. Okay.
I already see all these question marks pop up in your guys' eyes. No, you won't be able to call your kid Hitler either, even though the first name Adolf is technically allowed. These rules are one of the reasons why you won't find a lot of crazy first names in Germany, and also why Germans are often very fascinated by what American celebrities name their kids. Number 3, deny the Holocaust. Now, this one doesn't necessarily fit into a list of crazy or funny laws, because I think it's neither of those. However, many people from outside of Germany and outside of Europe aren't aware of this and find it a very interesting law when they first hear about it. It's illegal in Germany to deny the Holocaust. So you can't just say that the crimes of the Holocaust didn't happen. If you do...
Yeah, as we saw, they're very, remorseful about it, so they're really, enforcing it, like, no swastikas, no nothing, so it makes sense.
You can either get fined for it, or you can actually get prison time of up to 5 years. Damn. Now, I've read many comments on the internet saying that this indicates that Germany doesn't have freedom of speech. Well, that's not true. We do have freedom of speech, Meinungsfreiheit, as a fundamental right in Germany. However, freedom of speech can be limited by other general laws, by provisions for the protection of young persons, Jugendschutzgesetz, and another person's right to personal honor. Those general laws, which are like the first example of what can limit your freedom of speech.
Interesting, she said freedom of speech can be limited to another person's honor. I don't think you can do the honor here, because basically I think what she's saying, you cannot insult somebody.
I don't know about that.
Well, because she says... What did she say exactly?
Those general law, Schutzgesetz, and another person's right to personal honor. Those
right to personal honor. That's an interesting one. I think here we basically we say here, oh, you have the freedom of speech, just be ready to deal with the consequences.
Whereas, you don't have unlimited free speech.
Well, yeah, there's the libel laws and like stuff like that, which will limit that. So
You can't say things that would create danger.
no, yes, I know the fire
And then protected groups.
yeah. I guess the protected group kind of is the honor thing too, similar to. Interesting.
General laws, which are like the first example of what can limit your freedom of speech, cannot be laws that just discriminate against one specific opinion. They have to be neutral and they have to protect another legal right. In this case, the right that they're protecting is the dignity of the Holocaust victims and their families, which is something that we value very, very highly in Germany, because after World War II, when the Federal Republic of Germany was founded, the very first paragraph of our constitution, the Grundgesetz, became human dignity shall be inviolable. To respect and protect it shall be the duty of all state authority. So that's why denying the Holocaust is illegal in Germany, even though we do have freedom of speech. And it's also...
As she said, it's not exactly crazy. She gave an explanation completely reasonable to me.
illegal in 16 other countries. Number 4, it's forbidden to mow the lawn on Sundays or play piano at midnight.
That's funny.
Germans like silence. This is something you'll notice if you're ever in Germany, especially if you come from a louder culture like
The mowing lawn on Sundays, that's interesting. I don't know if I like it because I would probably like to mow the lawn on Sundays.
No, but no one wants to hear you mowing the lawn.
I get the
You
reasoning.
do it on Saturday.
I get the reasoning, but I as I said, I get the reasoning. I don't know if I like it.
the American one. Germans tend to speak pretty quietly, especially in public. And we also appreciate having some peace and quiet at home, which is why there are tons of laws and regulations about how much noise you're allowed to make and when. Sundays and public holidays have actually been defined as rest periods, Ruhezeiten, for the whole day, which means that you're not allowed to make loud noises that could disturb others.
So like for example, how we have 4th of July and party, you cannot have it like on a holiday. That's interesting. Okay.
Includes mowing your lawn or using a drilling machine, for example. So if you were trying to do some renovations at home, not on Sundays. This also applies to nighttime rest periods, which usually start at 8 p.m. and sometimes even to lunch hours. The rules for the lunch hours usually vary though, depending on where in Germany you live, and some rules will even be made by the house management of your apartment building. The Federal High Court of Justice has even ruled that playing an instrument in rental apartments is only allowed at certain times, from 8 a.m. to noon and from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m.
That's very interesting how specific that there's a 2-hour gap. I'm not surprised about 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. I think that's very reasonable. You just regular noise law, but the 2-hour gap from lunch that is interesting.
And even then, you can only practice for a certain amount of time. Piano players only get up to 2 hours per day, and drummers, for example, get 45 minutes in the summer and 90 minutes in the winter.
Okay.
Yes, German laws are very specific.
But those facilities where you do practices, they have soundproofs, so you're able to practice more.
Yeah, it's just, I guess in some of the videos we saw how there's like a lot of laws. This very much explains it, because some of these are so specific to the very interesting.
5, it's not allowed to keep urns at home. This topic doesn't really come up a lot in conversations in everyday life, fortunately, but the Germans among you may have wondered about this when watching American movies before, because in the US, it's pretty common that after a loved one dies, you take the urn home with you. I've definitely seen this in movies and shows before where either it's part of a comedic moment because someone doesn't realize that it's an urn, or, of course, it's part of a drama. Well, that's something that you won't ever see in Germany because we have a law called Friedhofszwang, cemetery compulsion, that says that any mortal remains have to be buried at a cemetery, or alternatively, after a cremation, you can have a sea burial in Germany as well. Now, in the past few years, the rules have been lifted a little in different states. In Bremen, for example, it's now allowed to spread ashes on privately owned property, but you're still not allowed to take the urn home with you. In general, there's pretty big differences when it comes to funerals and cemeteries in Germany.
That's interesting. In Lithuania, cremation is not really a thing. You bury people, but I don't know if it's legally or it's just what people do,
Germany and the US. I've actually had the topic on my list for a while, so let me know if you want me to talk about that more in depth at some point. And number 6, you'll be punished for saying du to a cop. Okay, those of you who speak German probably understand this law right away, but for everyone else, du is the German word for you. Now, why would that be a problem if you use that with a cop? Because in German, just like in other languages like French or Spanish, we have a formal and an informal address. So depending on what relationship you have with the person you're talking to, you'll use a different pronoun and also a different grammar structure when you talk to them. Du is the informal pronoun for you, while capital Z is the formal one. The formal...
She said it's illegal? That's what she said?
You could get in trouble.
You'll be punished. Oh, interesting. Because in Lithuania you also have, usually you would say like the formal. But I feel, I don't know if you would get like in trouble for saying informal. That's the interesting. I'm not sure. Because you use formal to the people you don't know, period, usually. So as you don't like, stranger on the street, you would say like in this case, see,
Formal one is usually used with people who are significantly older, strangers, people of authority, or just people that you have a professional relationship with. It really depends on the specific situation, but if it's not a child or someone you're close with, you usually don't use the informal address with them until you two allow each other to do so. Now, since police are people of authority and you speak to them in a professional context, you use the formal address with them, Sie. And if you don't, and use du with them instead, that can actually be viewed as insulting an official, Beamtenbeleidigung, because it's disrespectful, and you may have to pay 600 euros for it. The actual fines are decided on a case-to-case basis, but this is one number I found. I also found that showing a cop the finger gets you up to 4,000 euros.
Whoosh.
Now, technically, insulting an official is just based on the general laws.
Here, do we have insulting an officer or just assaulting the officer?
I think assaulting.
Yeah, I don't think there's insulting. I think you
Or,
can...
but they can also say, oh, you threatened me.
Yeah. Interesting.
Of not insulting others. There's no extra laws just about insulting officials.
But I think maybe there's a different relationship with the cops too, where maybe there's not so much like power tripping going on with cops. So that's, there's not like a thing like here, cops just be power tripping for no reason sometimes,
But I would assume that police enforce this much more than regular people do, so you should definitely be careful here. But also, I'm pretty sure that they would only enforce it if you obviously do it on purpose, and if they can tell that you're a non-native speaker and try to speak German with them and just make an honest mistake, I'm sure it's not a big deal. I have come across a few more very interesting German laws, like the ones about beekeeping, but maybe I'll mention those in the future at some point. For now, what other funny, crazy, or just...
I guess that's it.
Okay guys, let us know your thoughts. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Join the Discord. And as always, share as much kindness as possible.